a treat. It really is.
Stephen King seems like a genuinely interesting person, and not just for like what he's created, but like, or at least not just for what he's created artistically, but like, are you familiar with Joe Hill?
Joe, no, who is he?
Okay, Joe Hill is an author.
Okay.
And my recommendation for anyone out there, Joe Hill, you want to check his work out? Start with Horns.
Okay, so what kind of work does he do?
He's very much Stephen King's kind of...
Sci-fi, fiction kind of?
He dabbles in a lot. Dabbles in everything. Supernatural stuff, detective stories, all kinds of stuff. Writes under the name Joe Hill. Phenomenal writer. I mean, he's got some of his books turned into movies.
Really?
Yeah.
Can you give me a movie? Maybe I heard
Horns is a movie.
Horns is
starring who's the guy that played Harry Potter?
Harry Potter. Oh yeah.
Daniel Radcliffe.
Yes.
Starring Daniel Radcliffe. So like, it's not he's not a nobody. He writes under Joe Hill. It's Stephen King's fucking son.
What?
Yeah, his fucking son uses a pseudonym to be an author, and he's a damn good one.
Wow.
Yeah. Doesn't even use the King name.
How did I not know? That is insane.
You didn't know it because he uses a pseudonym.
That is insane. I've never heard of his work either.
Oh, he's good, man. He's really good. Just check him out. But like, my point was like, Stephen King, the creative content he creates, but also the people he apparently creates turn out pretty cool too.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's just kind of awesome to have that lineage to come from and not use it.
That's actually mind blowing. I know he had kids. I didn't even know he had a son, and let alone I didn't even know he had a son that was a writer.
He's been writing for years too, and like I said, he's really good, man. Just check him out.
I will absolutely, because that's really interesting. No, I will. So
he looks just like him.
Horns. Horns. I'm gonna listen to that or probably listen to it. I find it's a lot more. It enables me to do a lot more things whenever I'm listening to an audio.
I enjoy reading it more, but I rarely ever pick up a hard copy of a book anymore.
That's the same thing as me. I enjoy reading, but we
go back to the whole like time constraint, right?
That's just
it's convenient.
Like when I'm home, I'm dad, right? I'm cooking, I'm cleaning, I'm doing dad things. And
the other thing, when you read an actual book, I mean, does that not put you to sleep? Not because it's boring, but like just the action of reading, does that not put you to sleep?
In a way, it does. Not that I have less interest in it by any means.
No, but
it's
like just the eye strain, like the workout of...
you know what I think? I think it's just this, because you need silence to read.
I've always read with ambient music.
Really?
Ambient music,
Maybe it's just me. I think for me to actually be able to like keep a thought and go, because I've only honestly probably read a few, maybe a handful of books, if that half a dozen. I've listened to 30 or more plus.
Consumed the story.
But whenever I'm actually sitting there and reading and looking over words, it's a lot harder for me to actually pertain the thoughts in my head and keep the story going in a thought. So if I'm in silence, then I can actually do it. But I don't have silence in my life anymore because of my 3 kids. So when I do have silence, once in a fucking blue moon, it's just like, it's quiet. What the fuck is this? And my body shuts down. Time to sleep.
Yeah, of course.
So that's another thing. Like why I use audio books or any audio files is because if I'm doing dishes or if the kids are around, I can kind of keep it going in my head. I can't walk around the house and. So
what are the recommendations here? We're talking a lot about books and authors and stuff. Well, predominantly one author's books. But like we're just a good story. Like what would be the recommendation this week for anyone interested in seeing like the things we're interested in?
I think so. I recommended to you Firestarter as a beginner book because it was a very short story, but it was action packed. It was short, but it was straight to the point, and it had a lot of. It was very touching, and it had a lot of. I personally, I know you didn't really like the ending. I enjoyed the ending only because it kind of left the imagination open.
I enjoyed the story,
but you didn't. You're
right. I didn't really. I felt like
you didn't like that the ending left you hanging.
No, that's not it at all. That's not it at all. And I don't want to. The reason I'm hesitant here is because we just recommended this, and now we're talking about the ending.
Well, no, I don't mention it, but like...
Okay, well, I'll just tell you and we can edit this out.
Yes.
The reason I didn't like it was not because it left you hanging. It was because it felt like Stephen King got tired at the end and just hastily wrapped it all up.
Now, can I tell you something? Okay, so we don't have to edit this out because you never even mentioned the ending. You never... But there was a really cool thing, and I'm going to reference the Dark Towers again. So in the Dark Towers, there's a lot of authors that will mention themselves in their stories. Not a lot of them do it successfully, but Stephen King did it in his book, in The Dark Towers. And he did it in a very exquisite and very interesting way. But whenever he was mentioning himself, he was almost referencing himself in the stance, or in the idea that he was, how he would look at himself in a third person while he was writing the Dark Towers, because the Dark Towers never came as a whole. He never wrote number 1 and then done, and then number 2 and then done. It took him like 30, 40 fucking years to finish these books, but he wrote like 20 other books in between. And the way he referenced himself in these books was whenever he had, now this is a very, very, like, I'm kind of like not using the exact terminology of how he said it, but the way he explained it was whenever he had the need or felt the need to write about the Dark Towers, he started writing about it. And what I'm kind of getting at is, I think that whenever he ended Firestarter, or when he ended any of his books, it was excuse me, it was just the way he ended, and he kind of does it in a sense of it's almost like a third person feeling, where he feels like this is how it has to end. And a lot of his endings in the books that I've read, and the way that I personally feel about it, is that he kind of leaves it almost to an imagination, but he leaves it to an imagination to the point where you can get his point without him writing it. And that's one of the beauties and one of the talents that I think he has as an author.
I'm not going to dispute what you've just described, because he certainly does have that ability, but I think specifically with Firestarter, it wasn't so much that as it was he just ran out of steam.
You think so?
That's what it felt like.
I don't know, maybe, and it could, because I'm not sure where Firestarter came in his career as a writer. I do believe it is probably one of his newer articles, but I
think it's more recent.
That,
like in the last decade.
You know what? I'm going to Google that right now, because I think that Firestarter actually is one of his newer ones as he started. But again, I could be wrong, but I do believe that Firestarter was in the 80s, maybe?
No way.
No, yeah, it was a 1984 film.
Fuck.
The film...
But the story, though, like, was it the same story?
So, yeah, no, they made Firestarter after he made the book. The film was in 1984, sorry.
When was the book?
The book itself was, let me take a look here.
Holy shit, I thought that was like 04.
No, they're remaking Firestarter, actually. What would I do? Publication, is that...
Is the movie the book?
Yes, no.
Holy fuck! I want to watch this movie.
Yeah, no, but they're remaking the movie.
I still want to watch it. That sounds awesome.
The 1984 one, you mean?
Yeah, that sounds
so. The
fucking
copyright,
wicked.
the copyright of Firestarter is 1984. 1980 is what I'm getting right here. So it was a couple, and then they made the.
That's like 30 some years ago. Man.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, it was one of his originals.
Holy shit!
And then they made the Firestarter film in the 80s, but then. Now they're remaking Firestarter now in the 2000s, and I think personally it'll be a lot better than the original film, only because of like CGI and all the special effects and shit. You know what I mean? Because that's kind of back to Star Wars. That's kind of one of my things. That's why I could not fucking get into Star Wars.
I'm gonna slap that beer right out your mouth.
I know, and I get the same response from everybody. Me and my wife, we sat there and we tried to watch them, and it's a completely disrespectful way to go about it. I'm just arrogant, and I understand and I accept the fact of my arrogance, but the CGI, the lasers and shit.
You don't like fucking. You don't seem to like sci-fi just in general.
No,
you don't like Star Trek either, and there's no CGI in that.
I've never been a Star Trek fan.
Star Trek is the fucking greatest.
I have never been a Star Trek fan.
It is the fucking Next Generation forever.
I have never ever had a reason.
I want to kick you in the nuts hard.
What's so good? Like, beam me up, Scotty.
What's so fucking good about it? It's fucking okay. All right, you know what? Here's a fun fact. Many of our scientific breakthroughs actually originated on Star Trek. Like creative people saw a concept on TV and were like, "Wow, I'm gonna actually fucking make something with that."
The only thing that I've ever seen on Star Trek was a big group of weird aliens and one guy saying, "Beam me up, Scotty." But I have never watched an episode.
Well, what the fuck? How can you say you don't like something if you're not even going to fucking attempt, man?
Because Star Wars is more modern and Star Trek is way more
No, they're totally different. They're fucking totally different. It's got nothing to do with being modern or otherwise.
I know Star Wars is far from modern. I just like the fact sitting in the Millennium Falcon, or is that Star Wars?
That's Star Wars.
Fuck, I'm out of. I just the idea of it, like, okay, my father-in-law or my stepfather, sorry, he loves Star Trek, and he plays it all the time. Like, he's on the Space Network.
Have you tried watching the newer movies, like the J.J. Abrams film?
There was one that I was gonna watch, and it seemed really interesting, and that's kind of where
I seriously can't believe that we've been fucking having this debate all this time, and you haven't actually fucking tried to watch it. Like, you're just a giant bastard.
Oh, but that's kind of what makes me... Okay, so I tried to watch this because I feel like Star Wars is way more popular than Star Trek. I can relate to Star Wars more than I can to Star Trek, but now, when I watched... What was that Star Wars movie? The one that came out, The Last Jedi? They changed everything out.
I haven't watched it.
You haven't watched any of the new ones?
No. I watched The Force Awakens.
Okay, that was it. Sorry, that was it. The Force Awakens. That was the very first one that came out with, like, before the other two. There was
that was like the first of the newer ones.
That one fucking caught me. That was so good. I loved that movie.
Okay.
Now,
all right,
okay. So I watched that movie, really, really, really enjoyed it, and then it was because of that movie I was like, I'm going to watch the box set of the older ones. I watched the first one, which was
A New Hope.
A New Hope, and then I watched it in order the way they came out. I never
it's
watched
the way it's supposed to be.
But see, I asked like 100 people because I know it goes in weird
There's
order.
literally 100 different ways to watch the Star Wars.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
yeah.
I
you
asked
can watch
online,
them in a bunch of different orders that will work.
And I asked a bunch of people, and I was like, and this is where I fucked up, I think, because I enjoyed A New Hope. I enjoyed that one, and then the one after that one,
Empire Strikes Back.
Thank you. The one after that one, the third
Return
one,
of the Jedi,
and then the one after that one.
The one after that one,
the fourth one, it had to do with Anakin.
Technically, the fourth one is the first one.
It had to do with Anakin.
That's called the Phantom Menace.
That's where I lost interest. Whenever Phantom Menace, when Anakin...
That's where a lot of people lost interest.
And that's where fucking... Because I watched the first... Me and Alicia sat there all night long. We watched the first...
Okay, well, I'm not talking about, like, after 1983, I think, when Return of the Jedi came out. Like, I'm talking episodes 4, 5, and 6, the first ones to be made. How did you feel about those?
Like, the first 1, 2, and 3s or whatever?
With Darth Vader.
They're fucking great.
Okay, well, cool. Well, then we're on the same page. We don't need to fight.
Okay.
Well, it's not that you don't like Star Wars. It's that you don't like some of the Star Wars.
No, but I still... Like, I enjoyed the story. I just didn't enjoy the CGI. I didn't enjoy the graphics. But I enjoyed the story. I enjoyed, like, Luke, I'm your father.
I mean, like, there's so little CGI in the original Star Wars. It's flabbergasting.
Well, maybe...
Like, a lot of what you're seeing is actually taking place on screen.
Oh, it probably is. I mean, maybe CGI isn't the correct term.
Like, okay, for example, like, you remember when they blew up the Death Star?
Mm-hmm.
And how the X-Wings come in and they're flying through those trenches?
Yeah.
You know how they filmed that?
I don't, but I feel
it's
like
really fascinating. Yeah, you're about to. I'm about to lay some knowledge on you. So the way they filmed that was they built a tiny city. Like, the trenches that you're seeing them fly through, those were actual structures that they built. And then they put the camera on the back of a 4x4 truck and drove at top speed through that fucking thing. So anytime you're seeing, like, an explosion on screen, it's like tiny models that they've put in front of a camera on a stand and have literally exploded them. It's not CGI.
And you know this.
I know. That's how they filmed it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. The only thing I know about back then, there was a point whenever, and I only know this because I watched this on the actual movie, and if you go back and you can see it, I'm not sure which movie it is, but there's a point whenever Darth Vader comes in and he's talking to Princess Leia, the stormtroopers come in, and then...
That little ball of death with the needle comes in?
No. So the stormtroopers are walking into a ship. I'm not sure what ship it is, but the door... for the thing that it lifts up, it's only raised so much. One of the stormtroopers was too tall, and he smashed his forehead on the fucking door, and you can watch.
Is that on film?
It's on film.
I have seen that movie so many times. I've never noticed it.
It was a blooper, and they never took it out.
Awesome.
They never realized it until afterwards. There's stormtroopers. It's 2x2 walking in with.
Shit, man! I have to watch that tonight.
I will show you on recording.
That's fucking awesome.
YouTube anything you want. Anyways, and this is whenever, I think it's the very first movie, whenever Darth Vader...
you're right. That's when he has Leia.
It's the first few minutes when he's with Princess Leia.
That is fucking amazing!
Stormtroopers come in 2x2, and then the one on the left, like, because if you're looking at it, he's on the right, but like on the screen, he's on the left. And they're walking, and I think it's like the second row of stormtroopers, they walk in, boom, nails his fucking forehead because the door was too low.
I have literally seen that movie... Oh, I promise you, I've seen it over 100 times. I have never noticed
It's only on for a second. They switched cameras right away to Darth Vader. But yeah, it was super, super fucking funny. Anyway, all right, man. So we're about 45 minutes in or so. I think we're gonna tie it up for the night. I think this is cutting pretty close.
We're going to wrap this up, but I'm going to tell you right now, this little discussion about sci-fi films